Hi everyone, welcome to Research One. This is the first lecture. It's going to be the course overview and introduction. And we're going to interpret the course syllabus and major assignments, explaining how they support the development of ethical, anti-racist, and anti-oppressive research competencies. So I just want to extend a warm welcome to Social Work Research One. It's great to have you all back. And I think that this is everyone from our policy class last semester, so I'm not going to belabor this slide too much, but if you don't remember or if you're new here, my name is Dr. Loveland. I use she, they pronouns. My research interests are in food insecurity and human rights, and that looks right now at um, engaging in mutual aid organizations and how they distribute food, as well as sort of critiquing SNAP or CalFresh policies and how they are inadequate at addressing food insecurity in the United States. I live in the mountains. I live in Idlewild with my husband now. This slide is not updated. We got married last year, so very exciting. We'll have to update that. And my two dogs. This is Bernard right here. Kayla's a little bit more camera shy. So I want to start off by just explaining the research sequence. You're in research one, so there's also a research two and a research three. And what's important about research is that it ends with the development of your final thesis, your master's thesis, which is a research proposal or a research project, depending on how ambitious you are and how dedicated you are to completing and collecting and analyzing data, which is completely unnecessary. But if you are like passionate or thinking about doing a PhD program or something like that, you'll want to be thinking about completing a full project, and please reach out to me individually and we can definitely discuss these options. I will say most people go the proposal route, just to give you an idea before I kind of dive into this. So it's spring 2026. We're in Social Work 6011, Research 1, and out of the end of this is going to be our introduction chapter, chapter one. It is one paper that you will write this semester that outlines a problem that you would like to research, the purpose of conducting this research in social work, as well as the significance of the study to social work research or to social work practice. And so after the spring, you'll have your chapter one written. And next fall, I hope to be teaching you all as well. We're going to move into social work research two. That class number is social work 6012. Out of the second social work class will be your second chapter of your thesis, which is the literature review. So this is where you'll be conducting a exhaustive search of the existing peer-reviewed literature, identifying relevant articles, synthesizing those articles, and writing up a chapter that reviews an overall of the key studies, identifying some gaps and limitations, and then identifying at least one theory that's going to be relevant to examining your research project. And then in the spring of 2027, which is going to be your second year out of the three-year program, you're going to conduct Social Work Research 3, which is 6016. If you go the proposal route, we'll start with that. And in 6016, we write our third chapter, which is the methods chapter. And that will outline how you propose to complete a study of the problem that you identified in chapter one. And it'll be a unique study that fills a gap in the literature based on what you found in chapter two. And once you compile all of that with some relevant appendices, like perhaps an informed consent document or the measurement instrument you plan on using, that's your full thesis. Pause there. If you are that uber ambitious, desire to collect data, that sort of thing, you're actually not going to take social work three. What's going to happen is in the fall of 2026, while you're taking social work two, you will also enroll in what the class Social Work 6113. This is an independent study where you will select a instructor. It could be me, it could be someone else who's willing to independently supervise your research project. And through that independent supervision, you're going to propose a full study where you are planning to collect data, analyze that data, interpret those results, and write a full 5-chapter research project. So then when spring 2027 comes along, you're not going to join your peers in 6016. Instead, you're going to complete that independent study. And that way you have more time to go out and do the data collection, data analysis, all of that sort of thing. This does require that you are that, independent go-getter, that you feel confident that you can do this, especially because we're in a Pathways program. And this requires, I can't sit down with you in person necessarily and walk you through these things. We would be meeting on Zoom regularly, for example, but it does require you to be sort of an independent leader as a student. So just thinking about that. And whether you do 6016 or 6113 and 6114, your final deliverable as of spring 2027 will be either the full proposal, which is those 3 chapters, or the full research project, which ends up being 5 chapters. Your intro, lit review, method section, like everyone else has, a results chapter, and a discussion/conclusion chapter. Now, one thing I really want to mention is that because you will be finishing this in the second year of your 3-year program, there are particular considerations because you can't actually submit your thesis until the year that you graduate. So I have a beautiful document that is going to outline all of the stipulations to this because there are just like certain things that have to happen. In the 2-year program and in the advanced standing program, people take research in their final year. But for 3-year program and pathways, there's actually a gap. So I've created an alternative process. We don't have to worry about that for right now. I just want to give you a heads up that there's this state act, Title V of the California Code of Regulations, that says that every graduate must include a culminating experience and it should take place in the final year of the graduate program. So we have created sort of an alternative process where you will submit your final thesis in your 3rd year and or maybe not attend, but submit to a research symposium, and that counts as your culminating experience. No need to worry about that right now. This is like over a year away, but I do just want to give you a heads up of the full research sequence trajectory. I'm always getting ahead of myself. So, excuse me. You're going to work on this research project, whether it's the proposal or the full project, throughout your MSW program. And it is highly suggested that you work on this project in groups. So one thing I would love for you to think about and do is figure out, and I know you all have like group chats and that sort of thing, is does anyone have any overlapping interests for the research project? Now, keep in mind, you will be working with each other for 3 semesters, so you need to be able to build a robust partnership or triad. But I think it's very helpful to work on these projects in groups because that just takes the weight or the load off of all of you for completing this thesis. And you're able to collaborate and sort of bounce ideas off each other, that sort of thing. So think about who, if anyone, you want to be working with on this research proposal or project. Who has perhaps similar interests to you. And just know that if that's the case, once you join, you are joined. There's no splitting off because after the semester, you'll have written a full chapter collaboratively. It's sort of difficult to split off and start doing your own project after that. If you have any questions on this, please reach out to me and let me know, and I'm happy to talk through that. Let's see. Additional notes. I really want you all to figure out these groups sooner rather than later. So please notify me who you plan to work with by class 2. I'll put up a little sign up sheet so we can get that clearly documented, as well as the topic. we're going to be moving quickly. And as of next week, we're talking about research questions. So I want you to have a topic in mind as you're we're working through talking about how to formulate a research question. And it doesn't have to be your final research question. You can tweak your topic. It's not too late. I just want you to get started sooner rather than later. If you're in groups, definitely find an organizational space, whether it's your OneDrive, your Google Drive, or wherever to store documents, because there's probably going to be several versions. You're probably going to want to find a way to store your literature that you find, maybe notes as you sort of navigate through these different papers, that sort of thing. And I highly suggest discussing group agreements. I'm happy to help you navigate any issues you have through your groups, but my expectation is that you've had that conversation with each other before you come to me. So if you come to me with an issue in your group, my expectation is the other group members are aware that an issue is occurring. So there is a research project proposal manual that exists that's going to outline all of the information about this research project. And I'll show you that when we go on the Canvas tour, and where all those documents are located. We could take a peek at that as well. There is also something I want to point out is there's a very specific formatting for your final thesis. So that again is going to be in our research documents on the Canvas site. But I just want to call out a couple things. So you can either start working on it now when you start writing your paper and build all your papers into the template, or you can write your papers individually. And in 6016, we're going to have a separate class where we work on formatting. And you can take that time instead of like these activities that I usually have. I'll probably give you time to like format your thesis and that sort of thing. The other thing I just want to mention is it is in Microsoft Word format. Something that I've learned is people are not using Microsoft Word as much anymore, often using, Google Docs and that sort of thing. This, or Apple Pages is another popular one. This is unfortunately just formatted for Microsoft Word. There are specific functionalities in Microsoft Word that this template adheres to. So I would highly suggest, if you don't already, downloading the Microsoft Suite. You can access that for free with this link here, and the PowerPoint's uploaded, so you can grab that PowerPoint. And you can download a desktop version so you have access to Microsoft Word for when you're formatting your thesis. Okay, let's jump into the syllabus now. Let me see. Oh, I don't have it open. Hold on one second. I'm not going to go over the syllabus in great detail. And in fact, your next activity is to do a syllabus scavenger hunt, and your job will be to read through the syllabus and go through it in more detail. But as I'm sure you know, the class is asynchronous. I have office hours just like last year, Wednesdays 5 to 5:45. My contact info is here. This is just information on the course, and this chart here has, these are the course level outcomes that you should be able to feel confident doing by the end of the semester. Each of these is going to be mapped to those module level outcomes, like the one we're talking about right now is, understanding course objectives and syllabus and assignments and that sort of thing. And so this outlines just what you will expect to know from the class. Our textbook is free on CSUSB library, so you can click this link and you can access it. It is a required text. We're going to be leaning on it throughout the next 3 classes. This is an asynchronous online. It's pretty much arranged like the policy class was, where I'm going to have up to 3 lectures followed by up to 3 activities. Those activities will count for 20% of your grade. Once a week, I'm going to host office hours, and you can attend that. Encouraged but not required. Come if you have questions, that sort of thing. And what was starting to work at the end of last year was these optional synchronous Zoom sessions. So you'll see when we get to the course calendar that I have built in some synchronous Zoom sessions as well. For assignments, we have our city training. This is a training module that goes over research ethics. It's pretty robust. There's a number of modules you need to complete. It's not difficult, but it's kind of tedious. So I just want to give you a heads up now. I think it's due the third week, but I would get started on that right away so you don't have to do all of the modules. Like you can do it kind of, pick it up, put it down, pick it up, put it down. And you need to have city training in order to actually conduct research. So especially if you're doing a research report, this is going to be required, but we have everyone do it so that you can learn the ins and outs of research ethics, which will be the topic of module 3. There's also going to be an annotated bibliography where you're going to accumulate different readings and then do a summary and a critical analysis of those readings. That's going to set you up really well for your literature review in social work research too. We have an intro. Our chapter 1 intro is our main assignment in this class. You're going to draft it, and I'm going to provide you robust feedback. So this will be a group assignment if you choose to complete your research project in groups. And then once I give you feedback, the final submission will be a revision of that intro. So you have a nice, tight final chapter leaving this class. There will be a final exam in this class, and basically what I will do is I'm going to build out a number of questions into a quiz on Canvas, coming straight from the lectures and that sort of thing. So you should feel really confident that it'll be open books. You can use, notes, you can pull from the PowerPoints, that sort of thing. But this will just be like a culmination of all the things we learned throughout the semester. And then, as always, 20% is our participation activities. It's going to be structured just like last time, 5 points a activity, up to 3 activities a session. So, all that good stuff. And the details of each assignment are here. I'm not going to go through these details in, exhaustively, but please do read the syllabus to understand. And each assignment will also have a rubric associated with it in the assignments tab on Canvas. These are your support items. So we have the writing center, tutoring center, library. We have our plagiarism and cheating policy, dropping and adding classes, support for students with disabilities. If you have a disability or need an accommodation, please reach out to them. And our statement on inclusion, diversity, and equity as well. We get to the course calendar now. This is going to be each of our weekly topics, the readings you should do in preparation. And if there's a synchronous session, I will list that week. I will list it here as well as the date and the time. So you'll see that there are different topics for the next 15 weeks. And then at the bottom, I just wanted to highlight the link where you can join for the synchronous sessions if that's your jam. Okay, that is our syllabus in a nutshell. And then I want to do a Canvas tour as well, which should seem relatively familiar because it's organized very similar to what we had last semester in policy as well. So we have our homepage with my contact info, office hour link right here if you need it. Any to-do assignments are going to be up on the right-hand navigation. To access the syllabus we just went over, go into the syllabus tab and you can download it here. If I make revisions to the syllabus, this is where I will note any revisions. I will upload a new version and then I will give a narrative of what changed in the syllabus. Once I start doing my weekly announcements, there will be an announcements tab here as well. Assignments can be found here. So you see that we have this is shown by upcoming assignment, but let me show it by type. So you can see our class activities are out here. No, I just put this in the wrong one, so I'll move that later. So our class activities, which will be 20% of your grade, are going to be here. And then you see the assignments that I went over before. So the city completion report, annotated bibliography, intro and revised draft, and then by finals week, we'll have a final exam built into this assignments as well. Modules is going to be the, bread and butter of where we all are. This is just a generic start here. if you want to know the asynchronous policies, you can feel free to read through that. But this is basically our flow. This is going to introduce the dates of the module. And if you click into Module 1 Overview, you will see the purpose. These module level objectives are based on the course level objectives outlined in the syllabus. I have some prep work, so a reading. So again, Chapter 1, Why Study Research, and then a chapter called The Nature and Purpose of Social Work in the Handbook of Social Work Research. There will be 3 lectures as well as 3 activities. And again, if you would rather do the synchronous session than post on the discussion board, it will be noted those weeks here in the overview. Now, if we go back to modules, you then see I have my PowerPoints. That'll be the little paper clip. Um, this lecture is currently being recorded, so that's why we don't have a little link here yet. But PowerPoint, link to the YouTube video, and then an activity. So first activity is that syllabus scavenger hunt, where you'll read through the syllabus and then answer some quiz questions. The second one is a discussion post on why studying research. You'll either post here or join the synchronous Zoom session. One thing I just wanted to call out that's a little different from last year is I am asking you to also respond to at least one peer. I really enjoyed how many of you did that voluntarily last semester, and I thought it built more robust engagement. And I think especially research can be challenging or intimidating to some folks, so having more engagement and connection is really important. And then our research process reflection for our third activity. So building out the modules now, there should be at least 3 up by the time this course starts. And I would really suggest you go one by one and not get ahead of yourself. Research project documents. So the research proposal manual, as I mentioned, is here. This is going to be the document that outlines the instructions for the introduction assignment. So, and just general policies around it. So, talking about joint projects, in an extenuating circumstance, if you do have to dissolve joint projects, the timeline is outlined here and the organization. So, it's going to be very specifically formatted for graduate studies when you submit. We'll get all into that in Research 3. We don't have to worry about that now. I think the thing you'll be most interested in is this Chapter 1 introduction. It's suggested it's 4 to 7 pages. If you know me, I don't really count pages, but I'm more interested in the quality of your work. And it has 3 sections, a problem formulation, where you're going to describe the problem. This is where you're going to put like statistics and, fact-based evidence that shows why this is a problem and why it's related to social work, as well as what are the consequences or ramifications that this policy creates. So, what policies exist, what help, what constrain the issues, why are there no clear policies yet? For practice, what sort of agencies are involved, what's the role of social workers, what practice approaches are currently being used. The next will be the purpose of the study, and we're going to get into this in the next lecture, jump starting right away, describing the purpose of the proposed study, how it relates to social work, whether it be client practice or agency problems, and a broad overview of the research methods to be employed in your proposed study. By the end of this class, you should at least be able to identify whether it's a qualitative or a quantitative method, and perhaps even identify what type of qualitative and quantitative method you plan to use. And then finally, ending with why your study is needed. Why is this important? What is it going to contribute to social work practice or policy and that sort of thing? Um, and you're going to end with a clear research question of your proposed study. We're going to talk about research questions next week. If you are a Title IV-E student, your topic must relate to child welfare practice. So that is the research project proposal manual. You will also notice in these research documents, there is the template as well as that culminating experience explanation. So if you're forward thinking about spring 2027 and you just want to understand that sort of nuance for the 3-year part-time pathway students, that's explained right here. As we need more research project documents, perhaps a sample introduction chapter, something like that, those will be listed here. I think that's it for the Canvas tour, and I've been chatting for quite a bit, been yapping. So let's move on to next steps. We're going to do our syllabus scavenger hunt. Then we'll have lecture 1.2, which is the purpose of social work research, associated activity, the Why Study Research discussion post. And again, alternatively, we'll have a Zoom session on January 26th. That's a Wednesday from 6 to 7. That time seemed to work for folks last semester. Also, feel free to provide me feedback if that's not a good time for folks this semester and there's a preferable time, let me know. And I'm happy to, if majority rules, we can move some times around, that sort of thing. And then finally, lecture 1.3, an overview of the research process, followed by an activity of the research process reflection. So, thank you. I know this was a bit laborious of a lecture just for the intro. Promise the rest won't be this long. And I will see you in the next one.